Hello, everyone. Have you ever wondered why the woman you adore, the one you've given your tenderness, your patience, your unwavering loyalty, sometimes seems restless in your arms? You've been kind, you've been attentive, you've given her comfort, safety, stability, and yet there's a flicker in her eyes, a hunger you can't name that tells you something is missing. We live in a world that worships nice men, nice gestures, nice words. But niceness alone does not stir the deep waters of a woman's desire. There is a part of her, ancient, instinctive, electric, that craves something raw, something unpolished, something that doesn't always say please and thank you before taking what it wants. This is not about disrespect. It's about polarity, about the magnetic tension between safety and danger, tenderness and intensity, love and lust. Too many men think they must choose one or the other, but the truth is, she doesn't want to be coddled all the time. She wants to be claimed. She wants to feel that you can hold her heart and her body with equal strength. Today, we're going to talk about why women sometimes turn away from nice and why they lean into nasty. Not cruel, not unkind, but unafraid to awaken the part of her that doesn't want polite conversation. It wants fire. Nice is easy. Nice is predictable. Nice is safe. And while safety is essential in love, safety alone does not ignite passion. Passion thrives on a subtle edge, a flicker of unpredictability that keeps the senses awake. A woman can love the man who is nice to her, and yet find herself craving the man who awakens something deeper, more primal, more alive. When I say nasty, I don't mean unkind or disrespectful. I mean unapologetically masculine. A man who knows when to speak softly and when to make her breath catch with the firmness in his voice. A man who knows that sometimes desire is not born from careful politeness, but from a little danger, a little dominance, a little claiming. Here's what most men don't realize: attraction and affection are not the same. Affection is comfort, attraction is chemistry. You can give a woman flowers every week, you can listen to her stories, you can cook her dinner, and she might love you for it. But love without desire feels like friendship wearing a wedding ring. She'll appreciate your kindness, but her body may remain quiet, and a quiet body will eventually start looking for something that wakes it up. This is why so many men hear the heartbreaking words, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore." It's not always because she wants someone new. Often, it's because she wants a different side of you. The side that's confident enough to break the script, to stop asking for permission to be passionate, to stop tiptoeing around her desires as if they're fragile porcelain. Think about the early days of your relationship. There was a thrill in not knowing what would happen next. There was a tension in your touch, a boldness in your kiss. You didn't ask if she wanted you to take her hand, you just did it. You didn't wait until she gave you a checklist of what she liked. You explored, you teased, you learned her rhythms by heart. That's the energy she misses, even if she doesn't know how to put it into words. The truth is, women want both. They want the man who can be tender in the morning and make them shiver at night. They want to feel safe enough to surrender, but they want to surrender to someone who knows how to lead. This is where nasty comes in, not as cruelty, but as confident, embodied desire. When you're with her, are you present or are you performing? Do you hold her gaze long enough for her to feel it in her stomach? Do you speak in a way that carries weight, or do your words float past her like small talk? Are you willing to interrupt the predictable rhythm of your evenings with something impulsive, something that says, "I'm not here just to be nice, I'm here because I want you"? Many men think being nasty means being vulgar or aggressive. That's not it at all. Nasty in this context means you stop editing yourself to fit into the image of the perfect gentleman 24/7. You allow yourself to take up space. You touch her like she's yours, not like she's a guest in your life. You tell her what you want without couching it in endless disclaimers. And here's the irony: when a man starts owning this side of himself, his niceness actually becomes more valuable. Because then his tenderness is a choice, not a default. When you have the ability to be firm, decisive, and even a little dangerous, your gentle moments carry more weight. She knows you are not just nice because you're afraid of losing her. You are nice because you choose to be, and because you can balance it with the kind of intensity that makes her pulse quicken. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, a couple came to me in my practice. She was unhappy, but couldn't explain why. "He's a great husband," she kept saying. "He helps around the house. He's kind to me. He never raises his voice." But as we spoke privately, her voice softened, almost as if she were confessing something shameful. "I want him to take me," she whispered. "Not ask me, just take me. I want to feel like he can't help himself." That is the heart of this conversation. Nice is who you are when you're in control. Nasty is who you are when you're in desire. And women, no matter how modern, independent, or self sufficient, still want to be desired in a way that feels undeniable. They want a man who sees them not only as a partner, but as a woman whose presence stirs his hunger. You don't have to abandon kindness to give her this. You simply have to stop thinking that kindness is the only thing that makes you a good partner. You need to bring back the unpredictability, the teasing, the slow build that turns her polite smile into a bitten lip. It starts with presence. You can't fake desire. If you've been in your head, distracted, worn down by routine, she feels it. But when you decide to meet her with full attention, when your eyes tell her that you're not thinking about tomorrow's meeting, you're thinking about her. That's when her body starts to remember. From there, it's about action. Not grand romantic gestures that can be posted on Instagram, but small, deliberate moments that carry an undercurrent of tension. Standing behind her in the kitchen and brushing her hair aside to kiss her neck. Not quickly, but in a way that lingers. Whispering something in her ear that's for her alone. Holding her waist when you pass her, not because you need to, but because you can. A woman wants to feel that her partner has depth she hasn't yet fully mapped, that even after years together, he can surprise her, not just with gifts or trips, but with a shift in energy that makes her see him in a new light. That's the alchemy of nice and nasty. Without one, the other loses its power. Desire lives in the space between two people, not in the constant closeness, but in the ebb and flow. Think of it like a dance. You step forward, you pull back, you tease, you play. Too much forward motion, and you smother her. Too much retreat, and you lose her. The men who master this know that the art of attraction is not about being available every second. It's about being compelling every second. A woman's desire isn't a light switch, it's a fire. And like any fire, it needs oxygen. Nice, when overdone, can become suffocating. You think you're showing love by always agreeing, always accommodating, always anticipating her needs before she asks. But the truth is, this can take away the oxygen. She can't feel your hunger for her if you never allow space for her to feel yours build. Here's the paradox most men miss. Women feel safest when they know you can hold their storm, but they feel most alive when you are the storm. Just enough to shake the walls without knocking the house down. This doesn't mean yelling or intimidation. It means intensity. The kind that makes her heart race because she knows you are deeply, unapologetically present in that moment. Psychologically, what she responds to is polarity, masculine and feminine energy in dynamic tension. Nice often leans too far into the soft, accommodating, receptive mode. Nasty balances it with decisiveness, assertiveness, and just a touch of unpredictability. This is what keeps her looking at you like she's trying to figure out what's coming next, and loving every second of not knowing. Let's talk about an example. Imagine you've had a long day. You both come home, and she's in the kitchen scrolling through her phone. The nice response? Ask her politely if she wants dinner, check if she's okay, wait for her to set the tone. The nasty response? Walk in, take the phone gently out of her hand, look her in the eye, and say something like, "I've been thinking about you all day. Let's go." There's no question in your voice. It's an invitation wrapped in intention. The difference is energy. The shift isn't just physical, it's mental. When you decide to step into that energy, You stop seeking approval and start offering an experience. You lead, not because she's incapable, but because you understand the power of taking initiative. And trust me, most women don't want to plan everything. They want a man who sometimes says, "Here's what we're doing tonight," and makes it sound like the best idea in the world. Another critical point is voice. Do you speak to her with the same tone you use at work or with your friends? Or do you drop it lower, slow it down, let it carry weight? The voice is one of the most underestimated tools in attraction. Nice often keeps the tone neutral. Nasty uses it to create atmosphere. You can say the exact same sentence, but when your tone tells her you're not just making conversation, you're making a move, it lands completely differently. Now, this is where some men get nervous. They worry about crossing a line, about seeming too forward. And yes, consent and mutual desire are non negotiable. But here's the truth: in a relationship, she's already given you permission to explore her. The line isn't about legality, it's about attunement. Can you read her body language? Can you sense when she leans in versus when she stiffens? That sensitivity is what allows you to be bold without being blind. Being nasty also means being unapologetic about your own desire. Too many men try to hide it behind humor, or casual touches, or innuendo that they can pretend was a joke if she doesn't respond. But a woman can feel when you're holding back, and it robs her of the thrill of being wanted openly. When you let her see it, when your eyes, your hands, your entire posture say, "I want you," you awaken a part of her that polite conversation can never reach. Here's another story. A woman once told me about a man she dated briefly, someone she still thought about years later. "He made me feel like the only woman in the room," she said. "Not because he complimented me constantly, but because when he touched me, it was like he couldn't help himself. It was intense, but controlled. He wasn't sloppy, he wasn't pushy, but I could feel his desire in the way he breathed." She paused, smiling faintly. "No one's ever made me feel that way again." Notice what she remembered. Not gifts, not texts, not polite dinners. She remembered the energy. The same man could have been kind, supportive, generous, but without that current running underneath, it would not have left the same mark. And here's the thing: once you learn to channel this, it doesn't have to be constant. In fact, it's more powerful when it's not. If every moment is charged, she gets used to it and it loses impact. But when you bring it in deliberately, when you catch her off guard in the best possible way, it becomes a spark that reignites her curiosity about you. Sometimes, nasty is as simple as breaking routine. If you always kiss her the same way, change it. If you always wait until bedtime, surprise her in the afternoon. If you always text her good night, show up at her work for lunch instead. Desire doesn't thrive in predictability, it thrives in anticipation. And anticipation only happens when you give her something to look forward to, not something she can set her watch by. One more thing: nasty men own the room they walk into. Not arrogantly, not with bravado, but with grounded presence. You don't shrink to fit the moment, you make the moment adjust to you. When you bring that energy home, she feels it before you even touch her. It's in the way you stand, the way you carry yourself, the way you look at her like she's the most fascinating thing you've seen all day. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you've been told to tone down, the parts that once made her knees weak before life got comfortable, before routine softened the edges. She still wants those edges. She still wants the man who made her nervous in the best way when you first met. She just wants to know he's still in there and that he's not afraid to come out to play. When we talk about nasty in the context of love and attraction, we are not talking about cruelty. We are talking about aliveness, a kind of raw, unfiltered vitality that reminds both of you that this isn't just a polite arrangement, it's a living, breathing, passionate connection. Women, especially women in long term relationships, are not immune to the slow erosion of desire that routine can cause. In fact, the very things that make a relationship stable, predictability, reliability, comfort, are often the same things that can quietly kill the electricity that brought you together in the first place. This is why nice alone isn't enough. Nice is predictable. Desire thrives on uncertainty. Not the uncertainty of safety, but the uncertainty of what might happen next. Psychologically, this has deep roots. Human beings, particularly in romantic bonds, are wired for two opposing needs: security and adventure. Security gives us trust, love, and stability. Adventure gives us excitement, novelty, and a sense of risk. The challenge is that most people, once they have security, stop feeding the need for adventure. And when adventure dies, attraction fades, even when love remains. This is why a woman can look at her partner and still love him deeply, but not want him in the same way. The secure part of her is satisfied, but the adventurous part is starving. Nasty energy feeds that adventurous side. It creates a ripple of unpredictability, a tingle of tension, a subtle reminder that passion is still alive between you. In my sessions, I often ask couples, when was the last time you felt a little nervous around your partner? Not nervous from fear, but nervous from anticipation. For most, they have to reach far back into the beginning of their relationship to find that moment. And yet, that nervous energy is the heartbeat of desire. It's the delicious tension that makes your skin hypersensitive and your mind focus entirely on them. So, how do you sustain this over the long term without it becoming a performance or a manipulation? It starts with authenticity. Women can sense when a man is putting on an act versus when he is deeply rooted in his own confident energy. Nasty is not about doing certain moves or saying certain lines. It's about being a man who is connected to his own desire and unafraid to express it. One of the most powerful ways to keep this energy alive is to maintain your individuality. Too many men, in the name of love, dissolve into the relationship. They give up hobbies, friendships, passions that once lit them up. And in doing so, they lose the very magnetism that attracted her in the first place. You can't be interesting to her if you've stopped being interested in yourself. When you continue to grow, challenge yourself, and pursue your own life with passion, you naturally carry an energy that draws her in, not out of obligation, but out of curiosity and admiration. This ties into another truth. Desire is fueled by distance, not the physical distance of neglect, but the emotional space that allows her to miss you. If she knows every thought you have the moment you have it, if she can predict every move you'll make, there's nothing left to discover. A little mystery, a little space is not a threat. It's an invitation. It allows her to imagine you, to wonder about you, to feel the pull of wanting to close that space again. In intimacy, this plays out in the smallest ways. It's not always about big gestures, it's about moments. The way you look at her from across the room and hold that gaze a second too long. The way you touch her as you pass, with just enough pressure to leave a trace of heat. The way you say something that makes her laugh, then follow it with a look that tells her you're thinking of something else entirely. These moments create layers, and layered desire is what keeps her coming back for more. But here's where many men struggle. They confuse being nasty with being aggressive or controlling. That's not what we're talking about. True nasty is grounded in deep respect. It's knowing her enough to understand what turns her on, what makes her feel seen as a woman, and what awakens her body. It's about reading her cues and knowing when to push and when to pull back. There is also an emotional component to this that often gets overlooked. Women respond to men who make them feel safe to let go, not just physically, but emotionally. If she feels judged, criticized, or resented, she will protect herself. And a protected woman is not a surrendered woman. Nasty works when it's layered over a foundation of trust, when she knows that even in the heat of intensity, she is safe with you. Think of it like a paradox. The safer she feels with you emotionally, the more dangerous you can be with her sexually. The more she trusts you, the more she can handle that edge you bring into the bedroom. This is why building emotional intimacy, real intimacy, not just small talk, is critical. Listen to her stories, but also listen to the spaces between her words. Notice the shift in her tone when she talks about certain memories. Pay attention to the moments when her eyes light up or when they glaze over. These are clues to her inner world, and when you respond to them, she feels profoundly understood. And when a woman feels understood, she opens. Not just her mind, not just her heart, her entire being. That's when the nasty side of you stops being a shock and starts being a gift. It's no longer about trying to turn her on. It's about creating a space where she can turn herself on in your presence, knowing you can meet her there. Here's what I want you to take away. Nice without nasty becomes bland. Nasty without nice becomes dangerous. The magic is in the blend. She wants to know that you can hold her when she's vulnerable, and also that you can push her against the wall when she's hungry for you. She wants both the lover who makes her feel cherished and the man who makes her feel claimed. And it's not just about sex, it's about how you live together. The way you make decisions, the way you set boundaries, the way you carry yourself in the world. When you embody this blend consistently, something beautiful happens. She stops wondering if she could feel more alive with someone else. She starts remembering that the man she fell for, the one who made her blush, who made her heart pound, is still right here. And more importantly, she realizes that he's only getting better. Now that we've peeled back the layers, understanding why nice alone isn't enough, why nasty awakens desire, and how polarity keeps love alive, let's bring it home. This isn't about adopting a few tricks for the next week. It's about reshaping the way you show up in your relationship so that passion and love don't live in separate rooms. Living this balance means you stop thinking of attraction as something you do to her and start embodying it as something you are. You're not waiting for date night to turn her on. You're living in a way that keeps her drawn to you, even in the ordinary moments. That's when this becomes sustainable. In everyday life, it starts small. A subtle shift in your posture, holding her gaze instead of looking away when she catches you watching her, putting a hand on her back when you pass behind her, not to guide her, but to remind her you're there. These are little acts of presence. They say, I see you, without needing words. And the truth is, a woman's desire is often reignited not in the bedroom, but in the moments that lead up to it. Here's something else. Bring surprise back into your rhythm. Not grand gestures every week. That's not sustainable. And over time, it loses its magic. I'm talking about micro surprises. Change the way you greet her. Instead of, hi, how was your day? Pull her in and kiss her before she can answer. Swap a predictable Sunday routine for a spontaneous drive with no destination. Whisper something in her ear at a dinner with friends that makes her blush and look at you differently all evening. These aren't games, they're reminders. Reminders that you're not just her partner, you're her lover. Reminders that no matter how many years you've been together, you still have the ability to catch her off guard in the best possible way. But to keep this alive, you have to protect your own energy. A man who is exhausted, resentful, or constantly seeking validation will struggle to embody nasty in a way that feels authentic. This means taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, not just for you, but for the relationship. Strength attracts, vitality attracts, a sense of purpose outside the relationship attracts. And yes, part of protecting this energy is boundaries. Nice without boundaries is just passivity. When you have standards for yourself, when you make it clear, calmly, and firmly what you will and will not tolerate, you communicate strength. And strength is sexy. A woman may love the man who says yes to everything she asks, but she desires the man who can say no with conviction when it matters. There's also the matter of emotional leadership. Too many men leave the emotional climate of the relationship entirely in their partner's hands. But when you can step in and shift the mood, whether that means calming a tense situation or igniting a playful one, you become the conductor of the energy between you. That's magnetic. It shows her you are not just along for the ride, you are actively shaping the journey. One of the most profound ways to embody this balance is in the way you speak to her. Nice often defaults to pleasantries and safe topics. Nasty dares to speak desire into existence. Tell her what you want to do to her in detail, in a way that's playful, but with an undercurrent of seriousness. Or, in quieter moments, tell her exactly what about her is driving you wild right now. Let your words be a bridge between your mind and her imagination. And then, of course, follow through. Nothing kills attraction faster than a man whose words are big, but whose actions are small. If you say you're going to do something, whether it's planning a night out or pulling her into your arms, do it with intention. Consistency here builds trust, and trust gives her the freedom to surrender to the moments you create. I've seen couples who thought their passion was gone completely bring it roaring back simply by reintroducing this blend of comfort and edge. They didn't overhaul their lives, they shifted their awareness. They began to notice each other again, not just as cohabitants or co parents, but as lovers. They stopped moving around each other like furniture and started moving toward each other like magnets. Remember this: the goal is not to be nasty all the time. That would be exhausting and, frankly, overkill. The goal is to weave it into your natural way of being so that it feels effortless. That way, your tenderness doesn't dilute your desire, and your desire doesn't overpower your tenderness. They become two sides of the same coin, constantly flipping, constantly catching the light in new ways. At the end of the day, what a woman wants is to feel fully met. She wants to know that the man beside her can be the soft place she falls and the firm grip that pulls her in. That he can be the hand that wipes her tears and the one that leaves her breathless. That he can love her with depth and want her with heat. And here's the most important part: she doesn't just want that for herself, she wants you to feel alive in it too. Because when you bring this energy, it's not just her desire that wakes up, it's yours. You start to see her differently. You start to move through the world with more confidence, more certainty, more presence. You stop being nice because you're afraid of conflict, and you start being nice because you are strong enough to be. You stop being nasty to provoke a reaction, and you start being nasty because you're too alive not to be. So here's my invitation to you: stop choosing between nice and nasty. Stop thinking you have to be one or the other. Instead, become the man who can hold both with ease. The man who can look at the woman he loves across a crowded room and, with one glance, remind her of everything she's ever felt for him. Because in the end, she doesn't just want a good man. She doesn't just want a bad boy. She wants you. The you who is unafraid to let his kindness melt into hunger and his hunger sharpen his kindness. That is the man she'll never stop craving.